Okay, a little after 2. It's December 10th, Tuesday. Still all these great same temperatures. Nice and cold, right? 1 degree C. I don't know, could you guys see that? Yeah, there you go. Alright, I was asked to make a video, and I could do that because I think I got most of these where I could get to them. So, let's start out with the smallest Honda ATC. Honda did not make a 50cc. The first ATC they made was the 70. Came in 2 colors, blue and red. Right here is the blue one. I don't know, you guys could see that. It's covered up. But at 70cc, you can see the nice small tires compared to my hand. These were great bikes. The motor is very similar to the Honda Trail 70. I call these horizontal motors because the cylinder moves horizontally. So this is the 70 cc, kind of a kid's bike, nice bike, bulletproof, reliable. A lot of adults ride on them. If you go to Tom Martin's channel, he's got his buddy Mike who rides around on one of those. Mike, I bet, tilts the scale at 2 1/4, 250, maybe even 260, and he rides around on that, no issue. The only thing you got to pay a little attention for us adults is we make them top heavy. So if you do something stupid, it'll flip over and you'll end up on your ass. The nice thing about flipping one of those, it doesn't weigh anything. If I had to, I could pick that thing up and carry it up here. Not recommended behavior, but I could do that. The next unit is actually the Honda 90. And I can't get to it right this moment, but it looks a lot like the 110 here. The Honda 90, the early ones had big balloon tires in the back, tiny hub balloon tires. Most of those balloon tires went bad. You could just undo the bolt and replace them with these kind of wheels and hubs, no problems. But they used to have those big balloons. They were great in the sand. Annoying thing about them is the pegs slide backwards and forwards. So if you hit something, the peg slides out of the way, your foot hits the ground, the back tire runs your foot and leg over, pulls you off the bike, the whole bike runs you over. Not too painful in the sand, very painful if you're out in the woods or something. This is a Honda 110. You can tell if you look over the motor, you'll find it stamped somewhere. I think it says 108. The difference, you see there's no electric starter on this thing. The 110 came in 2 versions. It came with points or it came with a CDI, depending on what year it is. The newer ones came with points. I'm not sure the dividing line, 82, 83. I know the ones from the 70s had points. But it too has that horizontal motor. See how the cylinder moves back and forth horizontally. Next size up. So we went through the 70, the 90, the 110, the 125. This is an example of a 125. Sorry you can't see it well. You can see on the CDI in there it says 125. These 125s are electric start. They do not have reverse. None of the ones I've discussed so far have reverse, but they are electric start. They are all CDI type ignition. None of these have points. They're very similar to the 110, but the next model up, right? So you had pull start and electric start, a little nicer bike. Honda did something interesting on the last years of the 125. They went with a more vertical cylinder. I think they're only 86 and 87. They stopped importing ATCs to the United States in 87. There are very few 87s. I did manage to get my hot little hands on one and I'm not sure which shelter it's in. I did get my hot little hands on 125, 1986, and it is not in this shelter. You guys get to walk around the horde with me. Joy, right? Where is it? I think it's that guy in the back that I'm going to die trying to get to. Excuse the mess. Try not to step on any nails. Okay. This is a Honda 125 with more of the vertical cylinder. See how the cylinder goes up and down there? And they only made these for a couple of years, and quite honestly, you're going to have a tough time finding an 87. So basically, you have the 86 available. It has a CDI ignition, pull start, electric start, and this one has reverse. So this was a really nice bike. It's a shame they stopped making them. I think they started using this engine on the quad in 87. More of that horizontal, or more of that vertical cylinder. Okay. That's another 110 sitting right there. Okay, next up, after the 125 came the 185. That's obviously an example of a 185. The early 185s, I guess the 185 came in a couple of different versions. You had the ATC 185, which didn't have suspension, and then you have the 185S, which is the sport model, which did have front suspension. None of the 185s or 200Ss or anything else that I've already discussed have rear suspension. They're all just axles bolted right up. So this is a 185S, and the S probably stands for suspension in the front. Let's not talk about that. This is a 200S. Suspension in the front, basically the same thing as the 185. A few more cc's, depending. I mean, that one has a trunk. This one has no trunk, but it came with a rack. You know, the 185 and the 200 more or less the same. The 200 also came in an ATC version. The early ones did not have front suspension, so the ATC 200 and I guess the 200S did come with front suspension. The most common bikes, if you're out there looking for Honda ATCs, it seems as if there were 1,000,000 110s put out there, a few 125s, once again with the horizontal cylinder, horizontal motor, a load of 185s, a load of 200Ss, some ATC 200s. It seems that the ones with this suspension were a little bit more common. At least that's what I find a lot of. So we're up to 200 cc's. What comes next? Honda came up with a Big Red in the 200cc engine. I have one of them in here. Okay. That is a Honda 200ES Big Red. I think they made them for 83 and 84. What they are is a shaft drive, still no back suspension. They have a 5-speed transmission. Then they got this, see this little lever here? It does a high, low, and reverse, which is cool. They were pull start and electric start. Nice bikes, a little bigger footprint, very stable. These were replaced in 85, for 85, 86, and a few 87s with the Honda 250 ES Big Red. The Honda 250, I don't have one of them in here. There's one out in the back. But it has the same exact engine as that guy, and that's a 250 SX. That's the sport model. The ES was the utility model. They have a rack that looks just like this. A lot of them had a front fender and a front rack. The 250 ES. What I don't like about the 250 ES is if you let kids play with it and they grind the hell out of the starter, what could happen to you is you have an oil immersed flywheel and an oil immersed stator, and if the starter grinds up and it throws metal into the oil, the metal sticks to the magnets, and then it grinds the hell out of your stator. I'm showing you that. That's from one of the units that has since moved out to the shed. The unit was sitting right here. I kind of consider that a defect. I don't much care for that type of problem. And I mention it because there's a lot of those that seem to get into trouble with that. I've seen quite a few of those units. Tom Martin talked about one of those and so forth. So it seems to be a common defect. So 200 cc's, we've covered them. Moving up to, still 200 cc's. This is a 200X. Very nice bike, front and back suspension, hand clutch. Came in a couple of different models. The early ones, 85 down, had a 5-speed. 86 and 87 had the 6-speed, a little better engine, a little better timing chain. If you look at the engine, it looks a lot like the 200S engine. It has a lot in common. It's a kickstart only, no electric start, no battery. Nice bike, great bike, highly desirable, kind of hard to find in decent condition. If the original owners didn't beat the hell out of them and kill them before 1990, there's another couple of generations that came through and got them and beat the hell out of them and killed them. So this is considered one of the desirables, very desirable. This is the 250 SX, the 250 SX, and the 250 ES Big Red have a lot in common. Basically the same engine, shaft drive to a rear end. They are once again a shaft drive, front and back suspension, 250 cc's, kickstart, electric start. Both susceptible to those flywheel metal issues, but I have yet to get a 250 SX with one of those. I have a few Big Reds, but none of the other ones. I'm not quite sure why, because they are the same engine. They're interchangeable. I don't know, maybe a little filter. Somebody popped a little filter in there, or maybe there are just more Big Reds that were mistreated, and I've happened to get them all. The 250 SX, nice bike, fast bike, good geometry, nice donut bike, real nice bike to ride. So under real desirables, 200X, 250 SX, 250 ES Big Reds, all highly desirable. Two bikes that I do not have. I had them at one point, but I do not have them at the moment. There's a 350X. It was an even bigger version of this guy, 350 cc's. It was kickstart only. If your engine wasn't just right, you would kick it and it would kick back like a mule, threaten to break your leg. It was a forward kick model. From a riding point of view, very a bitch to get started, but a very nice bike to ride. When you gave it a handful of throttle, it pulled at the same rate wherever your RPMs were. Very stable, nice, really enjoyable bike. The one I had, the front suspension was frozen. The engine was a bitch to start. It's chain drive, front and back suspension. Once again, a real nice bike. And the last Honda three-wheeler was the 250R. They came in a air-cooled and a water-cooled model. Nice bike. The one I had was bored out to 286. If you had the RPM up and you gave it throttle, it took off like a bat out of hell. If you were bogging it a little bit and you gave it throttle, it wouldn't get out of its own way. You would have to downshift it. But once you did and you got into its power band, I mean, it was like a rocket ship. It pulled like no tomorrow. Mine was futzed around with, so it was hard to start. And it would overheat. Mine was air cooled. It would overheat, especially out in the woods. So I didn't keep it too long. If it was in the power band and you gave it a handful of throttle, once again, it did one of two things. It either broke loose and spun the back wheels, or the handlebars came up. You know, it threatened to wheel you out from underneath you. 250R, especially the water-cooled ones, very desirable bike, hard to get in nice condition. A lot of nice aftermarket parts for it. 350X, desirable. 200X, desirable. 250SX, a little more available. Desirable, more available. 250ES, somewhat desirable and available. All the other ones, 200S, ATC 200, ATC 185, 185S, the 110s, the 125s, they're all pretty available. You'll find those. In good condition, for the small ones, in really nice condition, I mean, 550, but they got to be in, 650 if they're in nice condition. The 200X in nice condition, you could break 1,000, work your way to 1,500. To the I see 350Xs and 250Rs. I see some of those guys reaching 2,500 to 3,500. Big Red's in nice condition, $1,200 bike. 250 ES in nice condition, $1,000, $1,200 bike. So the bigger the CCs, they do go up, but it depends. Condition is everything. Condition. If you find a cream puff, if you find a beautiful 200X, you eBay it, and I mean, it's absolutely perfect. Still has the tags on it, original tires, little nubs on the tires and all. You could probably work your way toward 5,000. 350X in that kind of condition, I don't know, and a 250R in that kind of condition, especially the water cooled with the nubs on the tires, original paperwork, like not ridden, almost a crate bike, so to speak. Crate as in not put together from the factory yet, not destroyed and dumped into a crate. Those bikes, the sky's almost the limit on what they're worth. So if someone finds one in a warehouse, give me a call. I'll give you 2-3 times what I normally pay for these ratty wrecks. All right, folks, I've been talking for 18 minutes, so I got to go. Remember, live, love, and have a great time. Take care. Handlebars up, tires down. We'll catch you on the next episode of The Horde. Thanks to everybody who watches me, subscribes to me, and comments to my videos. I really enjoy that. Take care now.